Alright, so here's my Titan breakdown of this week's Master Crota challenge, which is the Crota encounter itself. And Solar and Strand are surging this week. The challenge is to take Crota's shield down in one phase. So basically within a 4-second time window of that first sword hit that chips off Crota's shield. If you do not, then challenge fail. So the easier strat is just to go with 3 swords. You're most likely going to be 3-phasing Crota, so it's better just to minimize the odds of failure by making the attempt at 2 swords for 3 phases. Instead, just go with 3 swords for 3 phases. And in my experience on my 3 Master Challenge completions on all 3 characters, this was by far the most reliable strategy to go with in a LFG run. So if you're in a clan playing with familiar teammates and good communication and everybody knows how everybody plays, that could be a completely different story. But I'm guessing the majority of you are using LFG to do these raids and challenges, etc. So that is the perspective that I'm coming from. Now, originally, I've already posted my Warlock and my Hunter breakdowns and gameplay. By the way, this video will have the gameplay once I'm done doing the build overview. But on my Warlock, I did a support build with Cenotaph. On Hunter, I went for pure damage with Blade Barrage, Star Eater scales. And on my Hunter, on my Titan, I wanted to do a Tractor Oversoul fusion rifle gameplay because I just crafted this Eremite. Boy, it is nice that we can now use enhancement cores to level up our weapons instead of going to find a checkpoint in a dungeon or a raid or a campaign mission to just mindlessly farm enemies over and over again. I feel like spending our resources earned from organic gameplay is a much better experience for leveling up weapons, and I'm coming at that from the perspective of having no enhancement cores. I've burnt through all my finest matter weave, leveling up weapons, even my rainmakers. And essentially in this game, I've never had more than 300 cores at a time. So I do feel like, even though it is nice to be able to level up our weapons, it is now easier to get Ascendant Alloys and Shards and Prisms than cores. I feel like there's a huge disparity between the farmability of crafting materials. So I think Bungie needs to at least triple the amount of cores that we get. I know there's a lot of people that have stacks of thousands, but yeah, I wasn't around when there was any exploit to get more cores, and so it's a pain. They need to increase the drop rate of cores, but if you have enough, then you can go and level up a weapon in 5 minutes and craft it, which is what I did with Eremite because I felt it was one of the more important weapons to spend resources on this season, given that it is a high impact fusion rifle, so it has the most total damage out of any fusion rifle, as well as top DPS. At least it's on par with rapid fire fusions, but it definitely beats out rapid fire fusions in total damage. So I haven't had a whole lot of experience playing with high impacts in endgame content. The rapid fires have always just felt too good. The charge time for fusion rifles just in general is something that often dissuades me from using fusions. But rapid fires at least offer fairly fast charge time. So it takes a little bit of getting used to switch over to a high impact, charging up that shot, getting used to the charge time. I crafted mine with a charge time of 920, so I have a charge time masterwork, and for whatever reason you can't stack whatever battery it is that speeds up your charge time. It will not lower the charge time below 920, at least in written text. and that is with or without a charge time masterwork. So I think without a charge time masterwork, it's like a 960 charge time or 980, something like that. So without that masterwork at the base of 960, the battery that speeds up the charge time does not. It'll just stay at 960. So it's like the batteries just don't work, or there's a bug with the text. I don't know what the deal is. But I actually spent the glimmer to change out my battery from faster charge time to increased mag size. And I tested it in the Enclave, not like scientifically tested, but just to get the feel of it. Is there a noticeable difference with or without those batteries? And it didn't feel like it sped up the charge time at all. So I think the text is in fact correct, and the batteries don't do anything. So I just went with increased mag size because, as you can see here, I'm using Envious Assassin with controlled burst. So the goal with this fusion rifle is to basically do a full reserves dump without ever having to reload, which does take some setup because you have to get some kills with other weapons while this is stowed to overflow the magazine, and it overflows the mag by 2.5 times. So with a magazine of 7, you could get up to 17, 18 shots. I think it rounds up. So I think with 2 solar reserves mods on your chest, you can hold 19 reserves. So I think with definitely without any reserves mods, and even with 1 reserves mod, you can overflow the magazine to allow it to hold all of the reserves available. The only case where you would not be able to is if you had 3 copies of reserves on your chest, then you would have 20 reserves. So you'd have to reload after like your 18th shot, which is still just ridiculous. And in most cases, you're not going to be dumping that much ammo unless you're using tractor cannon, which was what my intent was. Like I said, I wanted to do tractor, Eremite, and Oversoul. But even doing Oversoul, you need to save a couple shots, and you certainly don't want to be caught reloading when the Oversoul timer is about to expire. So I'd say it's pretty rare situations where you're going to be on tractor and dumping a full, like all of your reserves. But regardless, it is, like I said, the best fusion rifle frame in the game, with currently the best 2 perks to combine for total DPS and damage. Control burst actually increases your fire rate, which turns into a 20% damage buff. So all you have to do is land all your bolts on your first shot, and then after you'll have control burst. So, and I gotta say, it feels very good. You'll see in the gameplay I use it on the unstoppable ogres, and it definitely melts away at them more efficiently than Riptide does. Riptide is nice for a quick stun and a quick freeze on an unstoppable, but it is not as effective at doing total damage or even DPS, I find, which is surprising because rapid fires are supposed to be more DPS with less reserves, but I felt like Eremite was just melting unstoppables. So it could just be me. It's probably because, no, it wouldn't be because it's Solar Surge, because fusion rifles are all overcharged. So Riptide being stasis shouldn't matter. It still benefits from the 25% buff because it's a overcharged weapon from the artifact, which is fusion. So anyways, I was supposed to be breaking down the build, but I am currently spending most of my time breaking down this fusion rifle. So but I guess it is important. I'm using it in the run, and it is a highlight of this season as far as craftable weapons, so I thought it would be good to talk about it a little bit. However, I ended up not having to use tractor because I got in a fire team where there was like 3 of us had tractor already on our builds. So Somebody had to give it up, and me being the least experienced person doing oversoul, or even tractor cannon for that matter, I haven't even done it on normal, so it wasn't really, I felt like it wasn't really my place to be doing it on master. I didn't want to waste anybody's time. I'll go practice with the tractor fusion setup and doing the oversoul. I'll do that on normal first before trying to attempt to do it at master, assuming that there's somebody more confident at doing it. So that's why I'm just rocking Lament again for the third time on this challenge this week, which is okay. That's fine. I'm pretty efficient at using Lament. I'm usually at the top of damage just because I've used Lament extensively to try and like solo two-phase bosses in dungeons. Most of my solo flawless runs, Lament plays a big part in those runs, so it's just something I'm proficient at least as far as the rhythm of landing the combos and knowing the right combos to get good DPS. Pardon Our Dust is useful because, so here's the thing, I wanted to do something different with this run. Like I said, for my first build I had Crota's Gaze for my first run on Warlock. I was just grabbing Crota's Gaze from the balcony, throwing healing grenades to my teammates, marking targets with Cenotaph to produce heavy ammo, and then dropping a well of radiance, of course. With my hunter, I wanted to do a sword, so I'd be down in the thick of the pit below the bridge where the unstopped spawn with the knight, the sword bearer, and all of the wizards. I find that is probably the most challenging part of the arena to play in. So depending what your job is, you could do different things, experience slightly different aspects of the environment. So on Titan, I wanted to excuse me, I wanted to instead do something a little different. So if I wasn't going to be the tractor guy, that's fine. I'll just do Lament, same thing as my other runs, but I will try to be as proficient as I can at melting the arc shielded knights in the towers and the champions when they spawn. And bonk Titan with Syntheseps is just like, it's one of the best ways to do that, really, even without an arc weapon. But yeah, you just get Roaring Flames going. If not biotic enhancements or the two of them together, you're just going to be like melting those enemies with 1 to 3 hammers max. So yeah, so that's what I did in this run. So Pardon Our Dust is just good for getting off that blind, because the knights do hurt. If they land a couple shots on you, you're probably dead. The Unstoppables can easily, well, this doesn't work against Unstops, but it does work against all the wizards and the sword bearer. So blinding GL is just super useful, especially if you're on a melee build like I am. That way it allows you to lessen the risk by getting up into the thick of things and blinding. I am running a double loadout here. So I'm actually, for damage phase, I'm switching off Syntheseps and I'm using Pyrogales. Pretty goofy looking exotic, but very powerful. This is kind of like the Curus of the Falling Star version for Solar with Burning Maul. So it allows you to just cast off one hammer strike with Burning Maul, and then you can go back to using your weapons, and the damage that you deal from Burning Maul turns into like a Silence and Squall for Revenant Hunter. It's kind of like a cyclone of solar damage, and it sets off ignitions, and yeah, it basically does about the same or better total damage than using Burning Maul for however long it takes to to do the super 10 seconds or something like that. Instead, you can do the same amount of damage in 2-3 seconds, however long it takes you to pop the animation and send it. I will say though, Curse of the Falling Star I think is still a better burst damage. It's more reliable. The Cyclones have a little bit of RNG as far as their tracking goes, whereas Curse is just like boom, you hit your target, that's it. You do 400, 500,000 damage. So yeah, I still feel like Curse is just better, and it's also immediate. Once you pop your Thunder Crash, you're in the animation until you hit the target, and then you're out of it. I feel like Burning Maul with Pyrogales is a little bit slower to get that super cast and then actually throw your hammer, do your slam, and then back to your weapons. I feel like there's more downtime with it, so it's not as one and done as T-Crash, for example, or Blade Barrage or Gathering Storm. Regardless, though, it's still very good, and this is pretty much it allows you to do the most amount of total damage for a solar subclass on Titan, as far as a super goes. So like my other runs for my setup here, this is all about getting ammo and getting armor charge, and collecting orbs of power to get my abilities super topped up, all that kind of stuff. And then when I switch to Pyrogales, I've got triple solar surge weapon, surge mods on my legs, and lucent blades on my chest, dexterity mods. Yeah, so that's the main thing there. I'd say the most important is dexterity to pull Lament out, lucent blades for better combos, and then obviously 22% more damage from the 3 copies of Solar Surge. So yeah, that's pretty much the setup. Of course, I'm using the same aspects and fragments on both loadouts, because if you swap to a loadout with different aspects and fragments, or even in a different order, even if they're the same but in a different order, you will lose all your abilities when you switch loadouts. So it's important that you keep everything kind of homogeneous. But as far as those aspects and fragments, Roaring Flame, Soul Invictus, just the 2 typical aspects that I always use on Solar Titan. Not really a big fan of Consecration, and it doesn't really play into the build at all, whereas Roaring Flames and Soul Invictus both complement basically everything about Solar Titan, whereas Consecration is just kind of like its own little unique thing. I feel like Consecration would just be better if it was right here in the melee department, maybe with a 2-minute cooldown, because I just don't I like Throwing Hammer and I like Hammer Strike, so there's really no situation where I feel like Consecration would be better than either of those, because Hammer Strike is an ignition on kill, which does huge amount of AoE, and your Throwing Hammer is infinite cure, and insane damage and no downtime. So why would I ever want to use Consecration? Even like if I was doing Pyrogale for like ad clear and stuff, I still wouldn't use Consecration, I don't think. But yeah, anyway, so the fragments here: Ember of Solace, Ember of Torches, Ember of Ashes, Ember of Empyrean. This is just the classic bonk Titan setup for fragments that I would pretty much use all the time when I'm using Syntheseps. And as far as like damage goes versus the boss, it doesn't really matter. The most important things for boss damage are Ember of Solace and Ember of Torches, just to give yourself 25% more damage from Radiant for, 12 seconds. And then every Throwing Hammer throw will reproc Radiant. So that's the most important for boss damage. And then for ad clear, Ashes and Empyrean, because all your sunspots will be scorching targets. And so that Scorch is going to do 50% more damage, set off ignitions quicker, and Empyrean is going to allow you to refresh the Restoration and Radiant timer, like Devour, as long as you get solar ability kills or solar weapon kills. So like all I have to do is throw my hammer, throw my healing grenade, then I've got radiant and restoration, and then I just keep killing stuff, and I will always have radiant and restoration, right? So these two are more for ad clear, or especially Empyrean, and Ashes, Torches, and Solace are the 3 fragments that are going to allow you to do the most amount of damage to any single target, or multiple targets for that matter. So that's pretty much it. And as far as the weapons I got this week, I think I got, well, for my final run, I got a Oversoul Edict again. Not sure if I'm going to do anything with this. Which has been unfortunate, but whatever. I like doing these challenges. It's fun, and then getting those 3 adept weapons per week is kind of nice because you never know what you'll get. And I love getting loot in this game. I love all the different unique builds and thinking about how I can use a off meta or unique combination of perks to play into like a specific build. I find the creativity is endless with this game as far as build crafting, and then complementing your build crafting with weapon crafting. Yeah, it's just designed together very well. So yeah, anyways, gameplay's next. Enjoy, and I will see you in the next one.
Okay, knight on right's dead. Top right, copy. Oh, I'm dead. Somebody might have to take it off of him. I can make it, I can make it. Now? It's gonna be bottom middle. I'm at 3/4. Take. You grabbing that sword killer? Okay. Yep. Yep, got it. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Left knights are dead, just FYI. Or right knights, sorry, right knights. Gotcha. Got it. Next one's bottom left. I'm at 50%. Unstops are out. Shit. Get ready to take. Gotta take now. Take now. Okay, I've got sword. Okay. 3, 2, 1, go. Copy. Okay, next swap is bottom left. I'm almost full. And grab. Go for it. Yeah, second. We need one more. Okay, I got it. Yeah, I've got it. I've got a healing aid. 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah, GG's.